You are born twice. The first time in a village that doesn't appear on any map the government chooses to acknowledge. Your mother names you something soft, something with vowels that sound like rain. The second birth happens at 14, when a man in pressed olive fatigues and mirrored sunglasses watches you break another boy's wrist during a schoolyard fight over stolen bread. And he smiles like a jeweler who has just found a raw diamond in a riverbed. He puts a hand on your shoulder. His grip is dry and certain. You feel nothing, he says. It isn't a question. You don't answer. But you remember his cologne, cedar and diesel, for the rest of your life. You don't choose this career. You are selected for it. There is a difference, and that difference is everything. Choice implies alternatives. Selection implies that someone, somewhere, has already decided you are too dangerous for ordinary life and too useful to waste on it. They take you to a facility that resembles a boarding school if boarding schools smelled of cordite and ambition. The beds are military tight. The food is functional. The curriculum is the study of a single human body, not your own, but his. The principles. The president for lives, the father of the nations. You learn his gait before you learn his name. You study his silhouette the way art students study Michelangelo, as an ideal form that must be protected at all costs, because the cost of failure is absolute. Your instructor is a man they call the architect. He is 60 years old and moves like water around stone. He spent a decade in Soviet protective service before those services dissolved along with the empire that funded them, and he arrived here carrying nothing but a dossier of operational theory and the specific quiet arrogance of a man who has never lost a principle. Forget loyalty, he tells you on your first day, walking the perimeter of a mock motorcade in the training yard. The sun is hammering the tarmac. Your boots are too new. Loyalty is a civilian emotion. What you will feel is something more efficient. Investment. This man is your asset. He is the building you live inside. If the building burns, you burn. You understand this immediately in the way that certain truths require no translation. He teaches you geometry, not angles and theorems, but the geometry of crowds. How a gathering of 200 people contains exactly 11 natural kill zones. How the human eye tracks movement from left to right and therefore threats arrive, statistically, from the right. He teaches you that a handshake is an assault and that a smile is a reconnaissance mission. He teaches you to read a room the way a ship's navigator reads weather. Not what it is, but what it is becoming. He teaches you to sleep standing up, not metaphorically, literally. You practice against a wall until your body learns to rest in 7-minute increments without surrendering its vigilance. This is the first thing they take from you, ordinary sleep. The soft, selfish unconsciousness of civilians. It will not be the last. By 22, you are assigned to the inner circle. The Krug, they call it. The ring. You are now one of 7 men who constitute the living architecture of his safety. You rotate on a schedule so precise that missing your rotation by 4 minutes triggers a full security escalation. You carry a Sig Sauer P226 in a shoulder rig and a secondary weapon at the ankle, and a third fact nobody discusses. That if you ever reach for either of them while inside the palace, you have already failed, because your first weapon is invisibility. You learn to be furniture, you learn to become the background of every photograph taken of a smiling man in a white suit, shaking the hands of foreign dignitaries. Decades from now, historians will analyze those photographs searching for intent in his eyes. And you will be the dark peripheral shape that nobody names. A ghost with a heartbeat, a shadow with an earpiece. The earpiece whispers to you constantly. Overwatch reports clear. Vehicle 2 confirmed position. Subject is moving to the terrace. The subject, always the subject. You never say his name aloud. Not once in your entire career. He is a coordinate. He is a location on a grid that must be kept stable at all costs. This is what the architect did not prepare you for, the intimacy. You know when he sleeps badly from the way his jaw sets at breakfast. You know the specific rhythm of his footsteps that means he is afraid but performing confidence for an audience. You have seen him weep once in a private courtyard at 3 in the morning, and you stood 12 feet away in the dark and heard everything and filed it nowhere because there is no file for that. There is no protocol for witnessing the small collapses of a powerful man. You simply absorb it the way stone absorbs water, and you do not examine what that absorption does to you over time. You are given a penthouse apartment in the capital, not chosen, assigned, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a skyline he controls. You drink Remy Martin XO because it is what appears in your refrigerator. You wear a Vacheron Constantin because it was presented to you in a velvet box after successfully extracting him from an assassination attempt in Zurich that officially never occurred. The watch tells accurate time. You find this almost funny. You do not have a partner. Relationships are a vulnerability profile. You have occasional evenings, approved in advance, with women who understand implicitly that there are questions they cannot ask, and a phone that will ring without apology. You do not explain your work. You have no work. You have a function, which is different, and the function is total. You have never taken a vacation. Vacations require a self that exists separately from the principal, and you are no longer certain that self remains. The attempt in Tunis happens on a Tuesday. A Tuesday in March, overcast, temperature 14 degrees, when a man in a catering uniform produces a weapon at a state luncheon, and you are already moving before the conscious brain has processed the visual data. Because the conscious brain is too slow, and the architect knew this and trained it out of you 12 years ago. 2 seconds. One intervention. The outcome is the outcome. What nobody tells you about saving a man's life is that it doesn't feel like heroism. It feels like catching a glass before it hits the floor. Pure reflex. Pure function. A body doing what it was designed to do. There is no swell of music. There is the sharp geometry of the moment. And then the moment ends. And then there is the sound of your own breathing and the smell of cordite and overturned soup and his cologne. Sandalwood and power. As he grips your arm, he looks at you with absolute clarity. Men in proximity to their own death sometimes achieve this. You are the only person in the world I trust, he says. You stand in the wreckage of the luncheon and understand that this is not a compliment. It is a sentence. Life without possibility of parole in the service of another man's survival. You saved him. You will spend the rest of your career wondering whether that was virtue or catastrophe. You are 39 when you are promoted to Chief of Detail, the youngest in the service's history. There is a ceremony. Private. No photographs. He pins something to your chest with his own hands. And his hands are older than you remembered. The skin thin the way an elderly man's skin becomes thin, and it occurs to you that you have watched this man age the way a son watches a father. Not with detachment, but with the specific unasked-for grief of someone who cannot stop the counting. You now run the program that trained you. You evaluate candidates the same way a man in pressed olive fatigues evaluated you in a schoolyard 25 years ago. You look for stillness. For a particular flatness in the eyes that isn't emptiness, but rather capacity, a reservoir that hasn't been filled yet with purpose. You find a 17-year-old boy in a border province. He broke a man's wrist in an altercation outside a market. The report describes him as dangerously unpredictable. You read this as not yet calibrated. You fly there personally. You put a hand on his shoulder. His eyes are steady, wary. Intelligent in the way that has nothing to do with school. You smell for just a moment cedar and diesel, a ghost scent, a memory or an hallucination. You cannot determine which. You don't ask for his name. You already know what he will become. That night, and in the penthouse with the floor-to-ceiling windows, you stand in the dark and look out over the city that belongs to the man you protect. And it occurs to you that you have never, in 25 years, looked at this skyline and seen it as something beautiful. You have always exclusively seen its angles, its sight lines, its roof access points and blind corridors, and the specific amber glow of the street lamps that tells you visibility is reduced to 40 meters and crowds become unpredictable below 15 degrees. You have never simply looked. The city hums beneath you, indifferent. Somewhere below, people are eating dinner and arguing about ordinary things. Money, love, the specific unhappiness of lives that belong to them. You are above it, literally, in a building assigned to you in a city that isn't yours. While wearing a watch that keeps perfect time that isn't yours either. The earpiece is off. For the first time in a day, it is simply quiet. You pour cognac into a glass and do not drink it. You think about the boy from the border province. You think about what you have handed him. Not an opportunity, not a career, not even a life exactly, but a function, a purpose with no exit clause. The beautiful, consuming certainty of knowing exactly what you are for. You think about his mother, who named him something soft, something with vowels. Outside, the city keeps its lights on all night, as cities do, as if afraid of what might arrive in the dark. You know exactly what arrives in the dark. You have spent your entire life being it. There will be no retirement. There will be a day, perhaps soon, perhaps in a decade, when he dies. As men do. Even men who are coordinates on a grid. And on that day, you will stand in a room that suddenly has no center, and you will be, for the first time since you were 14 years old, without function. You do not know what you will be then. You are not certain you will be anything at all. The watch ticks, the city hums. Somewhere, a boy is being handed a function. The shadow never ends. It simply changes the shape of the thing it follows.